Welcome, everyone. We are joined by Sheriff Kevin Coppinger, Essex County Sheriff's Department. And Sheriff, welcome. Thanks for talking with us once again here.
Well, thanks again for the invite, Bill. It's always a pleasure.
Before we begin and talk about some of the specifics going on, from under your direction in your department, put in context for us, Essex County, your department compared to other counties, and how are they similar or how are they not similar, if you will?
That's a great question. There are 14 counties in the state of Massachusetts. 13 of us have correctional facilities, the exception being Nantucket. The sheriff out there is a very small shop, as we call it. And if he has an inmate, he takes him across the ferry over to Barnstable County in their house within the Barnstable County House of Correction. But out of the 14, out of the 13 with correctional facilities, Essex County is the second largest in the Commonwealth. Yesterday's count was actually right on 1,000. That's a lot of inmates. The largest jail is actually Suffolk County in Boston. They're about 70, 80 inmates more than us. And ironically, our majority of our females are housed in Suffolk County because we don't have a large female facility. We have a small one, and we have about 80 of our females there, so it kind of balances out. But Suffolk's the largest than us. And then there's a whole variation of different size jails. Some drop down to 100, 130 inmates, and then Dukes County on Martha's Vineyard has much smaller, probably in double digits. So it's it's a wide lot of changes, a lot of different programs, a lot of budget discrepancies. I'm always looking to get the best bang for the buck, and I think that's why we're going to talk about the annual report, get back to the citizens. But I look at Suffolk County. Their budget is $123 million, and us being the second largest jail, we're at $83 million. That's a $40 million difference, and that kind of can be troublesome sometimes. But we do work with the elected officials at the State House, try to offset what we need here, and they've been pretty good to us. So we just want to make sure we do the best we can with the amount of money that we have, and keep Essex County safe as our number one priority.
Now, you mentioned the annual report. I want to get to that in a moment, but before I get to there, and we'll put a link on our post to that annual report so people can take a look at it. But before we do that, come up sort of the later developments or late breaking developments, if you will. Tell us about the Northern Essex Community College educational programs that you're running, and I think you have some new programs you're starting up there or continuing.
Yes, that's true. We've had several years. We've had a great relationship with the Northern Essex Community College. I brought them in here, I think like 4 or 5 years ago. They took over the education for the inmates. Now we have obviously a wide and diverse group of inmates here with a lot of needs, and many of them don't even have their high school education. Many of them have special education needs. And then we have some with a high school diploma who might be looking at college level courses, which Northern Essex helps us with. So we've a lot of time, effort, and energy is put into adult basic education. And we work very closely with the Commonwealth's Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So we recently paired up with them on another grant to expand our we call it ABE, again, Adult Basic Education, to prepare and then get these individuals that need these specific needs to get their HiSET, which is the high school equivalency, the old GED that some people may be more familiar with the term. But we while they're here incarcerated, we don't want them just sitting back doing nothing and not making any progress towards rehabilitation. So working with DESE and Northern Essex Community College, we're going to put in, I think it's about another 98 individual inmates into a program, and we're going to actually expand the hours over the next year or two to get them into the classroom and get them prepared for the high school equivalency exam. So it's just like high school. We'll run classes here with Northern Essex staff in the facility here in Middleton, and teach them just like they would in high school, get them educated, answer their questions, and then we'll administer the HiSET exam here. And when we finish it up, we'll have a little graduation ceremony. We actually just had one last week up in Lawrence. We've had this program for a while. This is an expansion of it. And it might sound a little corny, but we give the inmates cap and gowns. We have a little ceremony, and to some of these guys, this is a life-changing moment. They've never had a chance to get that high school diploma or their equivalency. So when they leave here with that in hand, it gives them a much better chance to rehab and maybe get a job and not come back and visit us here in Middleton.
Yeah, time well spent for sure on
Yeah,
both ends of this, really, huh? The
absolutely.
other thing you mentioned the adult learners, but you also have an academy, if you will, or a youth leadership academy with involving Essex Tech, and that comes up. But tell me more about that piece.
Yeah, that's something we've had for a number of years. Obviously, Essex North Shore Technical and Agricultural High School. It's a long name. Hopefully, I said it right. They're right next door, so we have partnered with them for many years. We run a youth leadership academy. We run two divisions. One is a junior division, and then the senior division is like 12 to 15. The other one is like 9 to 12, or right about in those areas. Um, each community, or we put groups of communities by week. So these kids can register. We usually register in March. Unfortunately, now it is full. It does kick in at the end of June, and it runs all summer. We'll have about 500 kids come through here, and it's multifaceted. Number one, we want the kids to have fun. It's summertime. They come, and Essex Tech has a great ropes course at their facility that we can use, and the kids will work out on that. We'll take them on a whale watch trip. We'll take them to a trampoline park. We'll take them over to maybe laser tag. So different fun things like that. But we're working with the kids to show them that we have correctional officers that come in and work with the kids that are reassigned from the jail. And we hire a number of college interns. But we want to show the kids, number one, that, give them a little taste of reality. We give them the anti-bullying, anti-drug, anti-smoking messages, and just try to maybe work with these kids who might kind of, we don't want them to stray in the wrong direction, let me put it to you that way. And then we also want them to see our staff here as people, not just somebody in a uniform and a badge, but people that care about the kids, and will work with the kids and have a great time. We have a graduation every Friday over at the high school. A little cookout, parents come, we do a canine demonstration. It's a lot of fun, and every year these kids enjoy it very, very much. So if anybody's listening, they want to register. This year is tough, unfortunately, but start looking at our website next March. Sign up, and we'd love to have some more folks in there.
Yeah, I'll definitely get on that for myself next March. That sounds like a good time. I mean, I got to make a note on my calendar for that. Absolutely. All right, let's get into the annual report. Again, as I mentioned, we'll put a link up on our post to that. But I probably have heard you talk about the STAR program many times. It seems like over for a while now. But what is the latest on the STAR program? Tell us about that, and what's the latest news with the STAR program?
Yep, I'll do that. But if I could just say for a minute, we run the annual report. It just came out a couple of weeks ago. It takes a lot of time to put together. It's something I brought to the sheriff's department from my days as Lynn Police Chief. We put the report together for the public to view it. It's as you mentioned, it's available on our website. It will be available on yours. We mail copies out to all the local elected officials in the cities and towns, as well as some of the state representatives and state office holders in Boston. It's our way of showing the public what we do, why we do it, and what our successes and our failures, if we have them. We're not perfect, but it's a good way for the taxpayer to see how their money is being spent that they pay every week to keep the facility floating. So there's a number of issues there. I highly encourage everybody to use the link and read it a little bit more in depth. There's lots of pictures in there, so it gives a little bit of entertainment. But the STAR program, STAR is short for Supporting Transitions and Reentry. This is a program we started about 14 months ago. This is something I always wanted to do when I first became sheriff, because of what I saw as a gap between individuals getting out of jail, returning to the communities, not always having the services and the needs addressed correctly that they have to have in order to not return to jail. And we strive to make sure the inmates leave here, they reunite with family, get back together in employment, don't become a problem in their communities that the police have to get involved, or the courts or probation, and certainly we don't want them back here in jail. So very quickly, what the STAR is, we opened up 2 offices. There's one in Lawrence and one in Lynn. We staff it with our personnel, as well as we just talked about Northern Essex Community College. They're at the STAR program locations. Spectrum Health Services, who does a lot of the clinical issues here. When I say clinical, I'm talking about different programs. It might be conflict resolution classes, anti-violence, how to be a parent, things like that with some of these individuals. Still, all the programs we do here inside the jail, and if the inmate doesn't finish them up before they leave here, now they can tap into those services or similar services in the STAR program. We can work with the courts, so they can be sent to the courts via the courts through probation. They can be sent through parole upon completion of a sentence when they've been incarcerated, or they can self-refer. We make sure all our inmates, when they're getting ready to leave our facilities, that they're aware of this, and we highly encourage them to stop in and talk to us, and many of them do. And I'm going to give the Lynn Police Department credit. They have a bicycle unit that patrols the downtown area where a lot of their activity is. When we came out with this last April of 2022, a few weeks into it, they came to us and said, we can see people on the street that need services, but they're not in the criminal justice system. Can they come to STAR? We said, absolutely. Send them over. We'll offer whatever services they need. It is free of charge. I will give Congressman Seth Moulton and his team credit. They got us a grant for last year and got us up and running. And now we're going to pick up the extra costs through our own budget here, working with our elected delegation in the governor's office. But it truly is a good program. We're averaging about 130. Last year we graduated about 135 people, and we're averaging between both facilities maybe 60, 65 individuals in the program at one time. It's one of those programs that's tailored to the unique needs of an individual. So people are coming and going all the time as we go, but it's good. It's connecting communities and services in those communities with these inmates that get out of here. So again, the whole goal is to get them re-entered back into the community and don't get them back into the criminal justice system.
And there are a lot of partners with that one too for you, right? I mean, to make that happen. I mean, it's, you mentioned a couple of them. I don't think you can mention them all because there are quite a few partners, correct?
There's probably close to 100 if you look at
Yeah.
the whole laundry list we have. But I mean, it's everything from, like, we give medication assisted treatment to folks here at the jail that have substance use disorders. So we can refer them to a medical facility anywhere in the county that can continue those prescription drugs. We mentioned education. We have other educational partners, workforce development partners, other social issues, even things like the registry of motor vehicles. We can work with them to make sure the inmates get a state approved ID and things like that. I mean, there's lots of people out there. We found just asking for their help. Most of them willing to come to the table and at least give us some direction how we can work together to get all these different services to the inmates.
All right, one more program to ask you about. That's the Correctional Opportunities for Personal Enrichment Program, or COPE,
Yep.
COPE.
That's a big one for us. We started that a couple of years ago. That really is for those folks who are suffering from mental illness. A very rough number is about half of our population has some form of mental illness. The COPE program, a few years ago, we sat down with the experts. We have over 32 licensed clinical social workers here employed by the jail or one of our providers here. We sat down with the experts in that field and say, how can we address the needs of these individuals better? And this group I'm talking about are the low, we call them low risk, but they probably got some anxiety issues, some other low level mental illness maladies. So traditionally they would be housed in a 2-person cell, just a concrete cell with a steel door. We took them out of there. We put them in a dormitory style housing unit. Again, we were able to obtain a grant to fund some of this. And they're in a dorm style unit with about 30, 35 other inmates. And that money through the grant allowed us to hire even more clinical social workers and embed them on the unit during the workday. So if the inmates are in there, they're having a bad day, they can actually get services on demand. They can go into the office of the clinician there and have a chat and do whatever they need to do. But we also encourage the buddy system. So because it's dormitory style and they can have access to these 30-ish other individuals, they can just go over and kind of vent to each other like a lot of us might do with a close friend when we have a bad day at work or something else comes up. But it gives them the better social skills, communication skills, ways to vent in a good way to any issues they're having. And it's been very, very good. We work with the courts on this quite often. The courts can know they're in the program. We will send them, the courts, some results of how they're doing in the program. That gives the judges through the probation office different options to what they might want to do. So if they do get out of here, they can continue similar services. It might not be STAR, but wherever the court wants to direct them. But it's been very successful. We're very happy with it.
You know, in your job, facilities are so important and having them functional. So let me just ask you one question on facilities, because in the annual report, I think there's a piece on renovations and so on and the work going on there. So for our listeners and the taxpayers, if you will, what is the latest on renovations? What's been done and what's on tap, if you will, to be done?
Well, I got to tell you, since I've been here, if it wasn't for bubble gum and duct tape, these buildings would be falling down. This facility was built in the early 90s. It's prefabbed. They tell me it was destined originally for a southern climate. There was a court order to close the old Salem jail. There was a rush for construction. And this place was built and situated up on a hill in Middleton. And what better place to take a prefab building headed for a southern destination and put it on a hill up in New England without weather? So enough said right there. We work closely with DCAM, the state agency that oversees a lot of construction, but we got a lot going on right now. We have one building in particular, our vocational building. There's extensive renovations going there. We're going to have to close that down probably in August for about a year to 18 months because it needs extensive renovations to bring it up to code. The outside, we call it the skin of the building. The outside covering on the walls are falling off. It's not environmentally friendly. It's certainly not up to code. We got a lot of money going to go into that. We have what we call our 240 building. That's getting a new roof on it as we speak. We just finished a major renovation to our 80-bed unit that we put some air conditioning in there for the inmates because that place could be really be warm in the summertime. And one of the more important ones, because we've had a lot of failures, our cameras and our doors system. You can imagine being this a correctional facility, everything has to work and work in a timely fashion. So we can't have doors that just open or don't open. So again, working with DCAM, we have an extensive project going on at our Lawrence facility and here in Middleton to update all our door locks and camera systems so we can get state-of-the-art coverage for safety reasons throughout both facilities. That's been on coming for a long time. Seems like if we have a power surge, all our systems go down. Luckily, it comes up most times. Sometimes there's a hiccup or two, but we've addressed it, and we've got a great team here that are putting the nuts and bolts together to make sure we get it done in a timely manner.
I have one last question for you, Sheriff, and that would be on hiring. You made news, I think, several months ago, Boston area news, when you lowered the hiring age for your employees there at the facility. So maybe give us an update on that. How has that worked out, and are you still looking to hire younger staff members there?
Absolutely true. We're looking to hire folks. When we started this crisis, this all came out of COVID. After COVID, a lot of people didn't want to come to work in a jail. A lot of people working remotely. We can't work remotely. We have to be on site. So a couple of things that we're doing, as you mentioned, Bill, we dropped the age to 19. Some folks like that. Some folks, a little bit critical of it, but we're looking at the individual. We're looking to make sure that individual is mature enough and able to come in and do the job. We run our own correctional academy up in Northern Essex Community College up in Haverhill. We rent space from them. So we do a thorough background check. So we do have a class going in a week from Monday. As of right now, we have 27 individuals who are going in there, which is pretty good for us. We graduated a class of 12 about 2 weeks ago, which was that is low for us. We're still down probably 50, 60 bodies, and we have a lot of retirements always coming up. But to come work here, we offer $2,500 sign-on bonus. If you work second or third shift, it's $68,000 to start, and that's probably going to go up July 1 with a contract improvement on the salary. If they want to go to school, they go to a state facility. There's up to 100% tuition remission program, and it's not a bad place to work. You can come in here. It's a tough job. I'm not going to lie to anybody, but you can come in here, work. After 20 years, you can retire at 50% benefit. And a lot of folks do that. You can start taking your pension then, and you can get your health care provided for the rest of your life. And a lot of folks, it's a lot stay, but other folks might want to just go off to another career. But we're looking for really good people. We encourage all who are interested. They can check our website, www.essexsheriffma.org, and they can get much more information on that.
All right, so we'll put a link obviously up to that as well, just for
Awesome.
for our viewers and listeners. Sheriff, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I haven't asked you about from the Sheriff's Department?
No, that was it. No, we're like I said, we're chugging along and, never go out of business, but we're just trying to do the best job we can and give as best many services as we can to everybody.
That'll be the day when you go out of business. That'll be it. That'll make some news. That'll be sure.
Absolutely.
Sheriff Coppinger, thanks so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate your
Yeah.
time and everything.